Moving Forward Literacy series. This is the second in my series of blogs about how we can develop a child's literacy foundation skills. Today, we're going to look at helping your child hear the individual sounds in a word. Why is this important, you might ask? Well, lots of spoken language interaction and reading books, all of those things gives them a spoken vocabulary, increases their love of books because we want a love of books and reading. But those two activities actually use different pathways in the brain. We have to know that science actually tells us that the ability to hear the individual sounds in a word increases the child's ability to be able to read the written word later. Reading is not a natural process for the brain. It is something that we have developed later in the history of man. So we have to activate the pathways that create the reading brain. Hearing is a very important part of this. So keep an eye out for ear infections or blocked ears in the young child, because this reduces the ability to process the sounds in a word and will affect their literacy later. We see it quite often. Children that have had to have grommets and things like that, their literacy can be delayed because they haven't got that initial building block as early as would have been liked. So, what are the first steps to hearing the sound? We have to find a fun way of doing it. We want to encourage the children to enjoy doing this, and we know that the best way of learning for young children is through play. In fact, maybe not just young children. We don't want to sit them down at the table and go, can you hear the sound of? No. As a parent, you've got the opportunity to do it in passing, in play, while you're moving around the house. So, when you're playing with them, why not play what word have I said? For instance, you want them to bring you a ball. Okay, here's a ball. I've got a ball. Could be any ball. Doesn't have to be a small ball like this. So they've got the ball over there on the floor somewhere or amongst their toys, and you say, oh, can you go and get me the b or oo? And they're listening. They're not quite sure what you've said because you've stretched it out, and their mind has to be able to hear those sounds and push them back together again. So if they don't get it the first time, try again. B or oo. Right? Put the sounds closer together. B or oo. Ball. And then finally they'll get it. Ah, ball. They want the ball. Get the ball. Play, catch. Encourage them that it was a great thing that they were able to listen out for the sounds and be able to find the object. Choose another toy in the toy box. Maybe they've got some toy sheep. Sheep are always fun. So, let's say this one, you're going to ask them, can you go and find me your toy? Sheep. Sheep. Bring it closer together if they're not sure what you're saying. Can you get me the sheep? By that stage, they should be able to hear that you're after the sheep. And they'll be able to go and get it. And you can do it with dolls, you know, any other toys, cars. Go and give me the and play with them with those toys. Talk about what the toys are, you know, a car, vroom vroom, noises it can make. All of those things build their vocabulary and their listening skills. Now, if they're not able to do it when you're bringing it closer together, then this probably means their brain is not quite ready for it yet. So don't push it. Give them a chance to let their brains develop a bit more. Do lots more playing and talking, and gradually try it again. And then when they're ready, their brain is actually ready to be able to break the word up like that and put it back together. You'll be able to work some more on it. And of course, once they've got the idea, you can encourage them to try and break the word up so that you have to find something and bring it to them. Remember, each child's brain develops at a different pace. Better to wait a couple of weeks or so rather than wasting time pushing any particular activity. We don't want to turn them off the idea. We want to keep them engaged in any of these games that we're going to do to encourage their pre-literacy skills. Now, besides hearing, another thing we need to keep an eye out for is, have you noticed that your child has some trouble saying some of the sounds in English? Keep an eye on it. If it doesn't improve, you might want to seek some professional help. So some children have trouble forming some of the letters. Children do take a little time to learn to speak clearly with all the sounds and the words, but watch out for the letters f, v, th, g, sh and ch. These are the ones that seem to cause the most trouble with students, and they pretty much really should have them by the age of 4. So if your child's still struggling with them, you might want to take some extra care to try and help them fix that. If you're not able to do that, then seek some professional help from a speech therapist. Get them assessed. Just check that they are on track, because it will make a difference again to their reading, and especially for spelling. So for instance, if a child is saying fat when they actually mean that, then that's going to be a problem, because they're completely different words. And if you're going to spell them, you have to be able to say that, not fat, otherwise you can't spell it. Also, we have those 3 letters, the f, the v and the th, are quite difficult to say for some children. They're in different parts of the mouth, and so we might need to help them isolate them and be able to say them for speaking, so that they can then use it for spelling. I've got some simple exercises I use with students to help them with this in class, and one of the best ways is to do it in front of a mirror. I have a little hand mirror, and by doing that, they can then see what I'm doing, but they can then see what they're doing, because you can say to them, copy me, but then their mouth doesn't quite do it. But when they see themselves do it in the mirror, it makes it a bit of fun as well. They can actually see how they're producing the sound. So for the sound of the letter F, so for fish, encourage the child to understand that they tend to bite your lip a little bit for that. Fish. Notice my bottom lip is caught in my teeth. So fish. Catch your lip in your teeth when you say it. Fish. F, f, f. And that helps them know where it is, and they see it in the mirror. You know, play some games, pull some faces, make it lots of fun. Then we can show them how that's different to the V for van. So when we say V, we don't capture our bottom lip in our teeth. We put our teeth behind our bottom lip, and it tends to make the lip vibrate, so it tickles. So get them to see if they can make their bottom lip vibrate and tickle. Go V, v. And of course I'm looking a bit strange. They'll think it's hysterical if you make sure that you do look a bit funny when you do it. It helps them remember. There's no doubt that comedy and laughing help you remember things much, much better. So we can do the f, bite your lip, v, make your lip vibrate. Oh, actually it does tinkle, it's awful. And then got those 2 separated. Sweet, now we have to worry about the old th. This one is actually probably the hardest one for them to articulate. So, I always tell my students that this is the only time you're allowed to stick your tongue out at me. So come on, let's stick our tongue out and go th. Now they will overdo it to begin with, but that's okay, because they need to feel where it is. Th, thing, 3. And do that a few times until they get practice at it. And you will have to keep reminding them, because if they've got into the habit of saying the f for the, etc., it'll take a while for them to get into the new habit. So you'll have to keep playing these games and practicing it. And then of course, once you've got the 3, to help demonstrate how they're different in the mouth, in front of the mirror again, get them to go f, v, th, and repeat it. And that will help solidify where it is in their mouth so that they can be able to do it. And of course, it's not just about your lips and teeth, it's where the tongue is as well. And that certainly comes in when we're doing the sound of sh for ship and s for snake. Some children get those 2 muddled together, and so we have a bit of a, the sh is more like a sh. It's a bit hard to do, but they tend to blend the 2 together. So first of all, let's fix the s. Make sure the s is right, and you explain to them and show them it's right at the front, behind their teeth. S. And if you say it, you'll notice that your tongue is curled up a little bit and just right behind the teeth. So it's almost touching the top of your palate as well. So feel it for yourself where it is, and that will make it easier for you to encourage your child where they need to put their tongue. So snake, encourage them to pretend to be a snake, and that will help them practice that sound. Now the sh is a little bit trickier, and one way I found that can help is you ask the child to close their teeth, so clench their teeth, and then encourage them to push the air through their teeth. So then we get shh, shh, and they think that's quite hysterical. And but doing that gives that shh sound. And shh, when you do that, the tongue tends to be flat on the floor of the mouth as well. So we don't have to tuck the tongue up. So s is up here, we smile a bit, and the tongue's up, s, right behind the teeth, but the shh, the tongue doesn't need to be anywhere near the teeth. And we get that sound coming out the side of our teeth. So lots of face pulling and stuff. The kids think it's hysterical, but you can, I've had a couple of students that have found those sounds really difficult, and if we keep practicing them in class and parents do them at home, you can actually get rid of quite a bit of it. Now, the other one that is much harder and also causes a problem is separating the sounds sh for ship and ch for chip. So ch, you can sort of start with the clenched teeth and try and get them to explode their mouth open, so, and push the air out. So cha, cha. So it's a much harder sound. Cha, shh, cha, cha. So keep practicing those. If you're having trouble, so if you're having trouble explaining to them, or they're having trouble copying you, and so it's not gradually improving, please do go and get some assessment by a speech therapist, a professional, who will be able to help with that. Those are my simple fixes that I use with my students, but of course speech therapists have a whole other range of skills that they will be able to apply and help your child with their speech. Very, very important, because if we're going to sound out to spell a word, chip, it needs to be ch, I, p. It can't be sh, I, p, or a version of it, because that's a completely different word, and they will get so confused once they get to the stage of reading and spelling. Now, you'll notice in all of my videos that I'm big on having fun and lots of joy in the lessons. Been teaching now for 21 years, and I know that the students who we can help have fun in the class, even when they're really working very hard. I had some students that find reading extremely difficult, and we're having to work very hard to be able to decipher the words and remember the words and read the words. But if we can make it joyful at the same time, have a reward at the end of playing a game together, all of those things really makes learning happen much better, and they'll want to come back to it. So remember that whenever you're working with your child, make it as much fun as possible. In fact, all things, even cleaning up after themselves. If you can turn that into a game, they will always do it without even thinking about it. And of course, one of the wonderful things you can do with children is music. Now, you don't have to be able to sing and dance yourself or play an instrument, but just some general, tapping, clapping, singing nursery rhymes. They just love all of that. And we can actually use music as part of reading as well, because when we read, there are beats in the words. We listen to the sounds of the words. There's rhyming, of course, in words as part of our understanding of how we read as well. But to listen out for the sounds in the words, we can use music just for that very basic level. And so all you need is a drum of some sort. Now, I've got this nice drum that someone gave me once, which is really nice, and I can use that. But honestly, a pot with a wooden spoon, kids love it. It makes a noise. Anything that makes a noise. 2 sticks, bang 2 sticks together, and of course you can clap. So anything that the children will enjoy using will make them join in what you're after much more. So what we're going to try and do is with them, what we want to do with the tapping is get the children to understand that, yes, so with our last activity, we were looking at the individual sounds in a word. Put them together and we get a word. But of course, words are put together to get sentences, and there are some children who don't hear those separate words, which makes, again, the relationship with reading quite difficult. So we need to encourage the idea that there are words to make up the sentence. So when we're singing a nursery rhyme, we can tap out the sounds. So if we're going to do, let's see, ba ba black sheep, ba ba black sheep, have you any wool? Yes sir, etc, etc, etc. So they can tap out, you can clap at the same time, or maybe you've got two drums. They'll love that. If you're banging on a pot at the same time they're banging on a pot, they'll think that's hysterical. So that's okay. So with each word, those were single words. Ba ba black sheep, have you any wool? So you can speed it up. And so if you can get them doing that and getting the beats in the words, it makes a huge difference later with reading. Actually, it's quite surprising. So then we can move, once we've heard individual words, so we choose songs that have got individual words like that, we can then move on to songs like Twinkle Twinkle. Now first of all you can start with Twinkle Twinkle Little Star, a single beat for each word. But of course, twinkle and little are both two-syllable words. So then we start to look at that words can be broken up into individual sounds. So ul, I, t, ul, 4 sounds. But when we say the word, we don't go ul, I, t, ul. When we say it, we go lit, ul. And that's something we need to do with children as well when they're reading. Later, we show them how you can break the word into their syllables. So the pre to that is getting them to listen for those 2 syllables. So we can go from twinkle, twinkle, little star to twinkle, twinkle, little star. We're now tapping out the individual syllables, and it works a bit better with the song. So when we're singing as well, you don't just go twinkle, you go twinkle, little. So we get those beats in it. So encourage them to do that when they're singing and dancing. That's another way. You could maybe dance around the room, take a step for each time there is a beat in the song. All of these, like I cannot think of the words to describe how much these simple activities make a difference with reading later. There is just so much difference we see with children that have been able to do this sort of play before than if they've not had any of this. So please find your teaching moments. Have fun with your children doing these activities, listening for the sounds, listening for the beats in songs, all of that. Get their bodies moving to the beat. It's great fun, and it is just such excellent activities for the brain. It starts to really get them the brain happening. And if you're doing exercises with them as well, like movement, you actually also can help what we call crossing the midline, which is when the left hand side of the brain and the right hand side of the brain start to talk to each other. And we want that to happen by around about the age of 6. So it develops. So it's not something that happens straight away. All the activities that we give a child, listening, moving, playing, balancing, all of those contribute to their ability to be able to do literacy later. So enjoy those nursery rhymes and games and poems and things like that. If you're not sure about the poems, some people haven't had a lot of nursery rhymes and things in their own life, go to the library. There's you'll be able to find lots of nursery rhyme and poem books there. I'm sure there's cassette tapes, now it's showing my age. I'm sure there's some music that you're able to get from the library as well that will help you. And of course, there's always good old Play School on the ABC. Every Play School episode has some sort of activity that contributes to a child's learning. So that's always really good time to do as well. But sit down with them while they're watching Play School, because you can actually get some tips and hints of the sorts of things that you could do every day to encourage your child's learning and literacy. Remember, they grow up so quickly. Have fun. Don't worry about the washing. You can always do that later. Thank you. I hope you come back for another one of my videos where we do some more exploring of how you can increase your child's ability to be highly literate and read and be able to read and learn when they hit the school years. Bye.